You touch them every single day. They're in your pockets, your kitchen, on your phone, in your clothes, and you have never once stopped to ask one simple question: why are they like that? Tonight, I'm going to quietly ruin a bunch of completely ordinary objects for you. Because once you find out what these tiny details are actually for, you will never unsee them again. So get comfortable. Let's start with something that is probably in the room with you right now. Let's start with your jeans. Look down. See that tiny little pocket tucked inside the right front pocket? The one that is way too small to hold anything useful? It is not a design mistake, and it was never meant for coins. Back in the 1800s, cowboys and railway workers carried pocket watches on a chain. That mini pocket was built to hold the watch snugly and stop it from getting smashed around. The watches disappeared over a century ago, but the little pocket is still stitched onto almost every pair of jeans you own. Now grab a pen, the classic kind with a cap. Look at the very top of that cap. There is a small hole in it. Most people think it's there to stop the ink from drying out. It's not. That hole is a safety feature. Every year, people, especially kids, accidentally swallow pen caps. The hole is designed so that if a cap gets stuck in someone's throat, air can still pass through it and they can keep breathing. A tiny hole that has quietly saved a lot of lives. Here's one for anyone who drives. You pull into a gas station and you can never remember which side your fuel tank is on. Well, your car has been telling you the whole time. Look at the dashboard, at the little fuel pump icon. Right next to it, there is a tiny arrow. That arrow points to the exact side your gas tank is on. It has been sitting there in plain sight in basically every modern car, and most people drive for years without ever noticing it. Look down at your keyboard right now. Find the F key and the J key. Run your finger over them. Feel those two little raised bumps? They are not random. Those bumps are there so that your two index fingers can find the home row without you ever having to look down. It is how touch typists keep their hands perfectly placed. Every keyboard on earth has them, and you've been touching them for years without realizing they were guiding your fingers the whole time. Open up a bottle of pills and you'll usually find a little wad of cotton stuffed on top. Most people assume it's there to keep the pills fresh. Originally, that is not why it existed. The cotton was put in at the factory to stop the pills from rattling around and breaking into pieces during shipping. But here's the twist. Once you open the bottle, that cotton actually traps moisture inside and can make the pills worse. So the advice now is simple. Take it out and throw it away. If you've ever flown, you might have noticed a tiny little hole at the bottom of the airplane window, and your brain probably screamed, "That cannot be safe." But it absolutely is. In fact, it is keeping you safe. The window is made of several layers. That little hole, called a breather hole, balances the air pressure between the layers as the plane climbs. It makes sure the outer pane takes the pressure and the one you are leaning on doesn't crack. So that scary little hole is actually doing a very important job. Grab a glass bottle of Heinz ketchup and look at the neck. You'll see a little number, 57. For years, people thought it was just a random brand number, but it is actually a secret tap spot. If your ketchup won't come out, you don't bang the bottom like a maniac. You tap firmly right on that 57 at a 45-degree angle, and the ketchup slides out smoothly. Heinz literally engineered the perfect spot to hit. You have just been hitting the wrong place your whole life. Pick up a coin and run your thumb along the edge. On a lot of coins, the edge has tiny ridges. They feel nice, but they weren't added for fun. Centuries ago, coins were made of real gold and silver. Sneaky people would shave thin slivers of metal off the edges, collect the shavings, and still spend the coin at full value. So mints started adding ridges. If someone shaved the edge, the ridges would be gone, and the fraud was obvious. The gold is long gone, but the ridges stayed. Look at the back of your phone, right next to the camera lens. You'll spot a tiny pinhole. A lot of people think it's a second sensor or a little flash. It is actually a microphone. That second mic isn't there for your voice. It is there to listen to the background noise around you. Your phone uses it to figure out what is noise and cancel it out. So when you're on a call, the person on the other end hears you clearly instead of the traffic and wind behind you. Take a look at the back of a button-up shirt just below the collar. A lot of them have a little fabric loop sewn there. It looks decorative, but it has a real history. It is called a locker loop. It was invented for sailors and later college students who didn't have hangers. They could hang the shirt neatly on a hook by that loop instead of letting it get wrinkled. Some students even used it to secretly signal their relationship status. A tiny loop with a surprisingly social life. Look at the handle of a pot or a pan. At the very end, there is a hole. Obviously, you can hang the pan up with it, but that is not the clever part. The real trick is that the hole is the perfect place to rest your dripping wooden spoon while you cook. No more sauce all over the counter. Slot the spoon right into the handle hole, and it sits there, holding the mess in the pan where it belongs. It was hiding a second job this whole time. Think about a classic chocolate bar split into those little segments. We all assume the segments are just there for sharing. Snap a piece off and pass it along. But there is an engineering reason too. Those grooves let the chocolate cool down evenly when it's made, so it doesn't crack randomly, and they create clean break lines so it snaps neatly instead of shattering everywhere. It is design you can eat. Sharing is just the happy bonus. Pull out a metal tape measure and look closely at the numbers. Around every 19 inches, you'll see a little black diamond shape printed on the tape. It looks like a mistake, but builders rely on it. That diamond marks the spacing for floor and roof supports called joists. It lets a worker mark out evenly spaced beams quickly without doing the math every time. To you, it is a random symbol. To a carpenter, it is a tiny built-in calculator. Order a pizza, and you'll often find a tiny plastic, three-legged table sitting in the middle of the box. It looks like furniture for a mouse, but it has one very specific job. It is called a pizza saver. The box top tends to sag down in the middle, especially when it is hot. That little table props the lid up so it doesn't collapse onto your pizza and smear all the cheese and toppings. A miniature table protecting your dinner from the ceiling. Here is one that has confused students for generations. The eraser with a pink side and a blue side. Almost everyone believes the blue side is for erasing pen. So they scrub away at their ink, tear straight through the paper, and get nothing but a smudgy mess. The truth? The blue side was never for ink. It is a coarser, tougher eraser made for thicker paper and darker pencil marks. The pen myth has ruined more homework than any teacher ever could. Lace up a pair of sneakers and look at the top. You'll often notice an extra hole, set a little apart from the rest. Most people just ignore it. But it is there for a reason. It is for a lacing trick called a heel lock. If you loop your laces through those extra holes the right way, it tightens the shoe around your ankle and stops your heel from slipping. Runners swear by it. That random extra hole could fix the blisters you've been getting for years. Look at the end of your shoelace. That little plastic or metal tube wrapped around the tip. It has a name almost nobody knows. An aglet. And it has a real job. Without it, the threads of the lace would unravel into a frayed mess, and you would never get the lace through the little holes again. The aglet binds the fibers together and keeps the tip stiff so it slides through easily. A tiny piece of plastic with its own fancy name, quietly holding your whole shoe together. Pick up a wine bottle and feel the bottom. There is a deep dimple pushed up into it, called a punt. People love to argue about why it is there. Part of it is history. Old bottles were hand-blown, and the punt let them stand up flat without a wobbly seam on the bottom. It also makes the bottle stronger and helps catch sediment. And let's be honest, a big, heavy bottle with a deep punt just feels more expensive. Sometimes a design sticks around for all of those reasons at once. Look closely at a golf ball. It is covered in hundreds of little dimples. You would think a perfectly smooth ball would fly better, but it is actually the opposite. Those dimples grip the air and create a thin, turbulent layer around the ball that cuts down the drag, pulling it back. A smooth golf ball would flop out of the air after a short distance. A dimpled one can fly nearly twice as far. The bumps that look like a flaw are the entire reason the ball goes anywhere. When you buy new clothes, there is often a tiny spare button or a little square of the fabric pinned inside. Most people toss it instantly, but it is genuinely useful. The spare button is an exact match for when one inevitably pops off and rolls under the couch forever. And that little fabric square isn't a spare patch. It is there so you can test how a new detergent or a stain remover reacts on it before you ruin the whole garment. Two tiny freebies that quietly save your favorite shirt. And that is the thing about the world around you. It is absolutely packed with these little details, every one of them designed by someone for a reason, and we just stop noticing them. So here is your challenge before you fall asleep. Look around the room right now. I promise there is at least one object near you that you've never questioned. If this made you see ordinary stuff a little differently, that is the whole point of this channel. Subscribe to Simply Curiosity, and I'll see you in the next one. Good night.